How fear secretly controls your life, and how to break free. What if I told you that most of the limits in your life are not real? They're not financial, they're not social, they're not even physical, they're neurological. Fear is one of the most powerful forces shaping your decisions, your habits, and your future. And most of the time, you don't even notice it. In this video, we're going to explore what happens in your brain when you feel fear, how fear silently controls your choices, what psychology teaches us about overcoming it, and how modern personal development principles can help you break free. Let's start from the inside, your brain. Part 1. The neuroscience of fear. Fear begins in a small but extremely powerful part of your brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is an almond-shaped structure located deep inside the limbic system, the emotional center of the brain. Think of it as your brain's built-in alarm system. Its primary job is survival. The amygdala constantly scans your environment for potential threats, and it does this incredibly fast. Much faster than your conscious thinking. Here's something fascinating. There are actually two pathways in the brain when you perceive danger. The first is the fast pathway. Information goes directly from your senses to the amygdala. No analysis, no logic, just reaction. The second is the slow pathway. Information goes to the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, where it gets analyzed before you respond. But the amygdala always reacts first. When the amygdala detects a threat, it activates the fight or flight response. It signals the hypothalamus, which then triggers the release of stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart beats faster. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your muscles tense. Your attention narrows. Your entire body prepares for survival. Thousands of years ago, this system protected humans from predators and physical dangers. But here's the problem. The amygdala cannot distinguish between a lion and social rejection, and it reacts almost in the same way to speaking in front of people, being judged, failing publicly, taking a financial risk, starting something new. To your nervous system, uncertainty feels like danger, and when the amygdala is highly activated, it partially suppresses the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic, planning, and long-term thinking. In simple terms, when fear increases, intelligence decreases. Your thinking becomes rigid. You focus on worst-case scenarios. You avoid risk. From a neuroscientific perspective, fear is not weakness, it's biology. But in modern life, this ancient survival mechanism often overreacts, protecting you not from death, but from your personal growth. And that's where fear begins to limit your life. Part 2. How fear blocks your life. Fear rarely shows up as panic. Most of the time it shows up disguised as logic. And it sounds like, I'm not ready yet. I need more preparation. This isn't the right moment, maybe next year. But what's really happening? From a psychological perspective, humans are wired with a negativity bias. Your brain naturally gives more weight to potential threats than potential rewards. Why? Because evolution didn't reward boldness. It rewarded survival. This is where loss aversion comes in, a documented principle in behavioral psychology. We feel the pain of loss almost twice as strongly as we feel the pleasure of gain. So when you consider starting a business, changing careers, ending a relationship, expressing your true opinion, your brain doesn't calculate potential growth, it calculates potential loss, loss of security, loss of approval, loss of identity, loss of status, and to avoid that discomfort, You stay where you are. Fear creates a subtle but powerful cycle. You avoid the uncomfortable action. You feel temporary relief. Your brain learns. Avoidance equals safety. This is how fear slowly shrinks your life, not dramatically, quietly. You don't fail publicly. You don't collapse. You simply don't expand. And over time, the cost of inaction becomes invisible, but enormous. Part 3. The psychology of courage. Now here's the paradox. Avoiding fear strengthens it. Facing fear weakens it. Modern psychology explains this through exposure theory. When you repeatedly face a feared situation without catastrophic consequences, your nervous system recalibrates. The amygdala reduces its response. This is neuroplasticity in action. Your brain is not fixed, it is adaptable. Every courageous act sends corrective data to your nervous system. This situation is uncomfortable, but not deadly. And gradually your threshold for discomfort increases. Many modern personal development books echo this same psychological truth. Action builds confidence. You do not become brave and then act. You act, and bravery is constructed afterward. Courage is not a personality trait. It is a trained response. And here's something even deeper. Fear and excitement produce almost identical physiological responses. Increased heart rate, adrenaline, heightened focus. The difference is interpretation. If you label the sensation as danger, you retreat. If you label it as growth, you advance. Psychology shows that reframing your emotional state changes performance outcomes dramatically. The same sensation can be panic or power. Part 4. The identity trap. At its deepest level, fear is not about the event, it's about identity. You don't just fear failure, you fear what failure would mean about you. Failure, by itself, is just an event, a result, a data point. But the mind rarely experiences it that way. Instead, it immediately turns the event into a story. If you fail at a business, the brain doesn't say, "That strategy didn't work." It says, "I'm not cut out for this." If you get rejected, it doesn't say, "That person wasn't interested." It says, "I'm not desirable. I'm not enough." This is where fear becomes existential. You're not afraid of losing. You're afraid of identity damage. Psychology explains that human beings have a deep need for a coherent, stable self-image. We build internal narratives about who we are. I'm intelligent. I'm capable. I'm responsible. I'm talented. When you take a risk, you are not just risking an outcome. You are risking a crack in that narrative. And the brain treats threats to identity almost like threats to survival. Why? Because social belonging and status historically meant survival. Being excluded from the tribe thousands of years ago could literally mean death. So today, even symbolic threats, embarrassment, rejection, failure, activate deep emotional alarms. So when you hesitate before acting, it's not laziness, it's protection. Protection of ego, protection of image, protection of the version of yourself you've carefully constructed. But here's the paradox. When you avoid actions to protect your identity, you freeze your growth. You remain consistent, but small. Real growth requires allowing your identity to be temporarily unstable. It requires being willing to look inexperienced, to look imperfect, to look like a beginner. Because identity is not something you defend, it's something you evolve. And the only way identity evolves is by surviving situations that challenge it. Failure doesn't destroy you, it updates you, but only if you're willing to let it. If you believe, "I'm not a confident person, I'm not a leader, I'm not disciplined. I'm not good with money. I'm not creative. Your brain will protect that identity. Identity creates behavioral boundaries. You will unconsciously sabotage actions that contradict your self-image. This is known in psychology as cognitive consistency. Your brain prefers being consistent over being successful. That means, if you see yourself as someone who avoids risk, you will feel discomfort acting boldly, even if boldness would improve your life. But identity is not discovered. It is constructed. And it is constructed through repeated action. Every small behavior is a vote for the type of person you believe you are. If you consistently avoid fear, you strengthen the identity of someone who avoids fear. If you consistently confront small discomfort, you begin building the identity of someone resilient. Identity is not a declaration, it is accumulation. Part 5. How to break free. So how do you actually dismantle fear's control? Not with motivation, not with affirmations, but with structured psychological retraining. Here's a deep practical framework. 1. Clarify the real fear. Ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? Not the surface answer, go deeper. Are you afraid of failure, or of being judged, or of feeling incompetent, or of losing approval? Specificity reduces emotional intensity. Vague fear feels infinite. Specific fear feels manageable. 2. Shrink the exposure. Fear grows when the leap feels too large. Instead of, start a business. Try. Research one idea. Send one email. Post one small piece of content. Your nervous system adapts gradually. Massive transformation is built on micro exposures. 3. Detach outcome from identity. One failed attempt does not define you, but if you attach every result to your identity, fear becomes overwhelming. Separate behavior from self-worth. You are not your outcome, you are your process. 4. Train discomfort daily. Don't wait for big scary moments. Build a habit of small discomfort. Cold showers, difficult conversations, public speaking practice, learning new skills. The more often you enter discomfort voluntarily, the less power involuntary fear will have. You are training your nervous system to associate discomfort with growth. 5. Redefine safety. This may be the most important shift. Your brain thinks safety equals familiarity. But familiarity is not always safe. Staying in a job you hate, staying silent when you should speak, avoiding opportunities for years, that feels safe short-term. But long-term, it creates regret. And regret is a slower, deeper pain than fear. True safety is not the absence of discomfort. True safety is long-term alignment with who you want to become. In conclusion, fear is not your enemy. It is an ancient system trying to protect you. But you are no longer living in a jungle. You are living in a world of opportunity. And the biggest risk today is not failure, it's staying small. If this video helped you see fear differently, subscribe to Personal Developer for more content on psychology, growth, and building a stronger mindset. Remember, your life expands in proportion to the fears you are willing to face. See you in the next video.